Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for a fabulous book launch of Civility Wins. Find your peace while taming the beast. This is sure to be the most breaking, wonderful book out there for the legal community and all those who believe in civility. So, I'd like to introduce our authors. I would like to introduce to you Kristen Goss. Please meet her. She is an attorney, a native of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and the managing partner of KWG Family Legal and Mediation Services, which was founded in 2016. Ms. Goss is a collaboratively trained family law attorney who focuses on representing her clients outside of the court in order to resolve their divorce, their uh, their family actions, their wills, trusts, pre and post nups, and other family related matters in a private, healthy, empowering, and cost efficient, effective manner. Kristen has been married for over 14 years and has three beautiful daughters, ages 10, almost 7, and 13 months. Very busy woman. An interesting fact about Miss Goss: prior to practicing law, she was a licensed financial advisor. Her financial background enables her to be a great advocate with insight when representing her clients during their division of their finances in order to finalize their divorce. Welcome. It's a pleasure, Kristen Goss. Good morning.
Good morning, Bianca. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Hi, everyone out there. As Bianca stated, I'm Kristen Goss. We want to welcome you to Civility Wins, our virtual book launch.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And the other half of this fantastic, well written book is Sandy Boisrond. She is an attorney born in Boston, but raised like a native here in our Miami area. She's the managing attorney of Spectrum Law Firm here in Miami, founded in 2017. Sandy also is the co founder of Learn Biz. It's an entrepreneurial coaching agency. She also co-hosts Learn Biz, the podcast on YouTube. Make sure you tune into that sometime. Sandy is an estate planning attorney who focuses on supporting her clients in developing comprehensive estate plans for generational wealth, transferring it and building a legacy for all times for their family. Sandy also serves to support entrepreneurs in their small business journey through education, resources, and training. A fact about Sandy: she's an auntie and she loves it. She's also an attorney. She's an advocate for autism and now an author. An interesting fact, furthermore, is prior to practicing law, she was a middle school science teacher. No small feat right there. Nonprofit program coordinator and a community liaison. Her education and community outreach background enables her to direct her clients to essential resources in the community while assisting them in organizing their affairs. Sandy, welcome.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Bianca. That was an amazing introduction. Truly appreciate you and each and every one of the people that will be tuning in today. And a special shout out to Miss AKA Lady who was watching us here on YouTube. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Bianca.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I guess you're wondering, who am I? My name is Bianca Moreiras. I've been serving the legal community for 4 decades. I know I look great. Thank you so much. And helping business owners in the legal community to build their business to attainable resources they never thought were possible. And I am so excited about this book launch because these two lovely young ladies have put so much thought, so much energy, and so much of themselves into find your peace while training the beast. So without further ado, let's get started. I have some questions for you ladies. I'm so excited. I haven't had a chance to have a little snippet of your book. However, I just love that you've taken the time to do this for your community and for all the people involved. So, Kristen, why is maintaining professionalism so important in the legal industry?
That's a great question, Bianca. Thank you for asking. When you sign up to be an attorney, the oath that you take in and of itself is something you've committed to being professional. When I look at the definition of professionalism, you have expertise, skillfulness, mastery, competence, capability, education, training, practical knowledge, maturity, just to name a few. As mentioned earlier, as lawyers, we're held to a higher standard when we take that oath. We swore to an oath when being admitted to practice that includes maintaining respect, remaining fair and just, seeking the truth and honor, maintaining integrity and civility to opposing parties, not just in the courtroom, but also in written and oral communications. So in a nutshell, to answer your question, Bianca, when you pass the bar and you swear under oath as an attorney, you are swearing to maintain professionalism.
Yeah, I think some people forget about that. It's not just raising your hand and standing in front of a judge. And I think that you've just hit the nail on the head. Well, Sandy, what role do you believe ethics plays in the legal profession?
I think ethics is kind of the foundation of everything that we do, but unfortunately, we struggle with that area because many times people don't really understand the ethical standards of the profession. And so we find ourselves engaging in different behaviors that are completely counter to, the rules of ethics within our profession, or even the rules of ethics when it comes to being professionals. So I think ethics at its core needs to be understood, studied, employed in the daily activities. And we have to find ways to be more engaged with what it is at its core that we need to be doing, how we need to be engaging and interacting, and teaching each other. Because when one person does something, it's helpful if somebody can give them some correction so that we're not constantly engaging in the same types of behaviors over and over. So ethics is everything, foundationally speaking.
Yeah, I hear you. It's such a fine line between advocates and adversaries, right?
Yes.
And
yes,
that's something that's always resonating within me in my years. So, Kristen, how do the experiences that you endure as a professional, good or bad, increase your confidence?
Thank you for that question, Bianca. I equate it to life in general. You take a newborn baby, for example, newborn baby versus a baby attorney when you just pass the bar. You have, as children, parents that guide you along the way. There may be some bruises and scrapes and maybe even broken bones along the way. As a young attorney, you can look out to mentors who would be the equivalent of parents to guide you along the way. And again, along the way, there will be mistakes made sometimes due to inexperience, but over time, your experiences teach you. And through that experience and what you endure, you're able to gain confidence. And so that is something that I think is key in the practice of law.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I like the analogy you made between the baby and the baby attorney, because I always think of them as baby attorneys when they're first coming out of school. So thank you for that. Sandy, what prompted you to focus on civility as the topic of the book?
I think it was because we were experiencing so many issues early on in our practice, and in talking with other colleagues and sharing experience with other, unseasoned attorneys, we're still trying to maneuver and figure things out. And I found that we were always having the same conversations over and over and over. It all had to do with ability to be professional, ability to understand what it means to really represent our clients versus what it means to be an adversary. Because oftentimes I feel like there were folks in the profession that were always doing too much, and it was coming off very negative, very bullying, like very like condescending type behaviors. And I just couldn't, because that's not in me. And when I met Kristen, I started to realize that there were other people like me that had these issues with these situations, but also weren't willing to basically lean in on that. We were willing to step aside from that. So Kristen and I call ourselves legal agitators, because we're not willing to just bow down to whatever it is that always has been. We're willing to kind of shake things up a little bit and say, no, we're not going to do that. No, I'm not going to respond in kind. No, I'm not going to be nasty and rude and disrespectful. I'm still going to maintain who I am and allow myself to exist within this system. So I think at its core, it was interactions with other people that led Kristen and I to having the conversations that we did. And it made us all the better for it.
Wow, I love that. You know, the two of you, I see your gentle approach without backing down. And that excites me, because you can breathe in between and not choose to be mean. Oh, I just made a rhyme there. Okay. I love that. That's great. Kristen, what are some tactics you use in your practice to promote civility?
Common courtesy, just do the right thing. Say please, say thank you. When I communicate with my paralegals and my assistant, if I'm asking them to do something, I'm not talking at them, I'm talking to them. They are on my team. And I'm asking in a polite way, would you please do X, Y, and Z? Or you can consider client appreciation, for example. If it weren't for my clients, I wouldn't be in business, and I do appreciate them. And so saying thank you, giving them a token of appreciation, whether it's a small, again, thank you, or a note during the holidays or during their birthday. And the same with my staff, just showing your appreciation, saying please, saying thank you. There could be disagreements, and that goes with anyone you interact with, but have a conversation. Communication is key. And not having a conversation to prove your point, but really to gain an understanding and try to see what happened, where the miscommunication occurred, to try to resolve and move forward. And, sometimes things don't get, I shouldn't say things don't get resolved, but you can agree to disagree, but be respectful towards each other. So those are some of the things that I think about just in everyday life in general. And then from everyday life, I equate that to my practice.
Yeah, you said something that resonates with me. Gain understanding. How often do we just skim over understanding how the other person is expressing themselves or feeling, and then take it into consideration? And like you did say, it's okay to disagree and agree. That is very important. So, wow, that's great words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Kristen. Sandy, back to you. Let's see. How did your earlier experiences in law and previous professional experiences impact the content of this book?
Ooh, that's a loaded one. Before I answer that, I want to say hello to Loris. I also want to say shout out to my Sean Denise. Congratulations on your 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to keep saying it no matter what space I'm in. But my experiences in the law were very interesting early on, because I initially went out solo. And I decided that it was something I wanted to do because it's something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to have my own business. And what better way to do that than to take the law and employ that? Well, I figured out early on that I probably had some things that I wanted to learn a little bit more about. And I decided to try firm life a little bit. firm life, unfortunately, just my circumstance, obviously this is not everybody's experience, reminded me that I needed to be solo. And there were a lot of nuances to it. And I'm just going to say it in a phrase. It's always been like this. I went through it, so you're just going to have to deal with it. That's the response I would get from certain things that were happening. And I'm sorry, I wasn't okay with that. Being a student that went into law school later in life, I started law school at 34. So coming out of law school, I'm a grown adult. So I'm not coming into an environment where you're going to be talking to me certain types of way. I'm also not going to be dealing with people in the courtroom or people in other instances where it's kind of like, well, you're new here, so I'm going to talk to you any kind of way. And there were a lot of people that had to learn the hard way that I'm not interested in that. I'm not about to go back and forth with you. We're not going to have a screaming match on the phone. And I've literally had attorneys screaming at me on the phone. I've had attorneys writing these threatening emails to me. I've had attorneys write a dissertation of an email trying to think that it was going to intimidate me. So those were my early experiences. And it wasn't until I started, as I said, meeting folks like Kristen and other folks who were solo like me that I started to realize, oh, so we're all dealing with this? Oh, okay. So no, we're not doing that. That was my whole position. We're not doing that. I don't care if I've been practicing for 5 minutes. You're going to treat me like a human being first. And then if you want me to learn something, that's fine. I know that comes with the territory. But I want people to remember that not everybody is fresh out of law school, never had a life experience. So you don't have to talk to people in certain ways, even if they have no experience. And even worse, if they do. Like, you should actually know that someone is still a professional, regardless of their age in practice. But the other thing is knowing that I knew who I was and I knew what I was capable of. And I also knew that I had something to offer to the profession, just like the profession had many experiences to present to me. So those are all things that really kind of served as the foundation. And Kristen and I share very similar experiences. So when we were writing the book, when I tell you it was easy to get the ideas out, that was the easy part because there was always something that we could touch on scenario wise. I think the hardest part about getting the book together was just, editing, formatting, those things. But content wise, we're talking about series 2 and 3 and 4 because we have plenty of material to feed from, unfortunately. Fortunately for us, but unfortunately for, this concept that we're talking about, which is civility and professionalism. But yeah, it's really an interesting situation. And I see somebody in the chat saying it sounds like corporate hazing. It is exactly that. It's hazing, it's bullying, it's disrespect, it's condescension. It's all of those things wrapped into one.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. When you were saying all those things about like, this is how it is, I went through it and, it's your turn. It reminds me way back when I was a child and your parents would say to you, because I said so. And your opinion didn't matter. And just things in general didn't matter. You just did what you were told. And I love, the brassy, bold and dynamic that is coming out of this program. And I just can't wait to get my hands on the book. Oh my gosh, I just can't wait. So let's get it out there and rock and roll. Back to you, Kristen. I have a question for you. Why did you decide to write Civility Wins, Find Your Peace While Taming the Beast with Sandy?
I couldn't have thought of anyone better. The book is a labor of love. It's a long time coming. I want to say 2017 is when we started writing the book. And it started from a series of co-counseling situations that Sandy and I were on. And throughout our experiences, I would say there are about 4 of them, and 3 of them were all involving one particular instance. But for me, it was just partly coping. It was a healthy way of venting, getting our feelings out there, and, saying, you know what, we're going through this. We're sure that others are going through similar situations. Why not give back? We are givers as it is, and we want to be able to give to others. We wanted to have something like a tool that people could use that would give them tips on how to deal with situations, things that people could relate to. We are coming, of course, from a legal perspective, but this book can transcend across professions. As long as you're a business professional, you can relate to a lot of the things that we have to say and the things that we address in the book.
Wow, so exciting. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so it was almost like therapy for you ladies, sounds to me, right?
Yes.
So, who couldn't use a good therapist to get them through their business acumen? Back to you, Sandy. What do you want the readers of this book to take away from it?
I want readers to look at the fact that we as individuals always have something in us that is beyond what the outside world is going to see. And sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we don't feel valued. And in fact, we sometimes end up questioning our skills, our ability, our education, our training, and we find ourselves stunted and we can't grow and we can't change and we can't develop. And so I want people to look at this book as something that they can take bites at, because we wrote the book in the form of quotes and some stories. And so the quotes were created by both Kristen and I. So you'll find some that are Kristen, some that are me, and some that are the two of us combined. And all of these quotes were directly from scenarios. And it was like just trying to find an answer to what was causing us grief. And in fact, Kristen, I think it was 2 trifecta cases. So it was 3 cases for one scenario, 3 cases for another. And then there were some other random things that happened to us individually. But the book is set up in a series of quotes. It's the whole book starts with different quotes. And we kind of give some storyline and perspective. So if it's a quote that Kristen created, she'll give you like a story or a situation, or maybe talk about some professionalism issue. And same with me. I'm going to literally talk to you. These are actual scenarios. So we didn't just make stuff up. We actually pulled from situations. And as I said, we had so many scenarios. It was kind of like, all right, what do we choose? Which one do we want to use for this? But I want people to take away the bits and pieces that make us up and that help us get through tough situations, challenging people and relationships, and be able to take it and say, you know what? I am capable. I am worthy. I know myself. And I know that no matter what it is that's going to happen, civility is always going to win at the end.
Absolutely. Wow. I am so excited for you both. So, just random here. What can you just give us, each of you, give us one of the quotes from the book and a 2-minute synopsis? Am I putting you on the spot?
Slightly, but I think I can pull it up real quick because let me remove myself real quick and I'm going to grab the book.
So this is so exciting to all our listeners and our viewers out there. We want you to remember our virtual book launch, which is coming very soon. We're prepping you for it. We'll be back again with more information at a later date. And Civility Wins, it is all about find your peace while taming the beasts. And as Kristen said before, it is for across all industries, not just the legal community. But, we hold, our legal professionals to a higher regard, and it's got to start there. It's really got to start there. What do you think, Kristen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it has a starting point. You got to start somewhere, like you said, and the more that this information gets out there, the more that people stand up and say something, then that's when change can happen.
Wonderful. So Sandy, back to you. Let's have a quote.
So this is our book. So you could probably see the cover is still in proof mode, but it's getting ready to be finalized. So Kristen, what you want? Confidence? I'm going to take one of your first quotes at the very beginning of the book.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so this quote says, I am more than capable and competent to practice law. And again, fill in the blank, whatever profession you're in, and this will apply. Did you want me to read a little blurb? All right, hold on here. Okay, young attorneys do not have it easy. We battle feelings of inadequacy, thinking we're not as capable as more seasoned attorneys. Not only do we think it ourselves, but we're constantly reminded that we're just starting out and have a lot to learn. Young attorneys receive feedback pretty frequently. Some is positive and constructive, some is negative and destructive. It's up to us to decide how we choose to react to both types of feedback. The fact that we're not always going to receive feedback that supports our growth as young attorneys, often we're given negative criticism instead of useful, actionable feedback. This behavior may result from seasoned attorneys feeling threatened by younger practitioners or struggling with confidence issues themselves for unknown reasons. It's critical that you take whatever value may be found in the negative criticism and disregard the rest. Confidence is a term that we hear all the time. To have confidence is to know your worth and appreciate your strengths while embracing and recognizing your limitations. However, it is natural to struggle with our confidence level from time to time, whether it's the fear of what others will say or think, or the feeling of not being experienced enough or knowledgeable enough. This sense of lacking confidence is very real. If we were to heed the negative voices and absorb the negative feedback, we might proceed on the assumption that perhaps we should try a new career, or we should stop taking risks or stepping out of our comfort zones. However, surrendering to these negative voices would prevent us from growing, developing, and sharpening our legal capabilities. It would stunt our ability to learn new skills and navigate complex case scenarios. As attorneys, we're often faced with multifaceted case scenarios that don't have direct answers. It is our confidence that helps us determine our success in our cases.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. And one that you wrote, Sandy.
One that I wrote, I like this one. You know more than you think, and you should respond accordingly. The practice of law is an ongoing learning process. In law school, we developed a foundation of knowledge that allowed us to think outside the box and see things differently from the average person. It shifted our perspectives in just about every aspect of our daily lives. Now, we can't help but question and analyze situations through our legal lens. While we continue to learn every day, of course, we have developed a core set of skills and abilities that are independent of our chosen practice areas, in addition to those within our practice areas. These skills comprise our primary toolkit in the effective practice of law. However, we have often found ourselves in situations in which our knowledge or our skills are questioned based solely upon our limited years of experience. This is particularly common when interacting with some of the so-called leaders in the legal profession. You will be surprised at the lengths they will go in an effort to bully you into backing down, losing your confidence, or questioning your own skills. Our lesson learned is not to be afraid to call their bluff, and just because you're a David doesn't mean you're automatically in a losing battle against the Goliath. Remember, David won. The fact is, you know more than you think you do, and you've been trained to research and argue a position on both sides. You understand that you must take each case on its own merits, and that each case has fundamental elements you can work with. And you can have access to resources that enable even the novice to become versed in an area of law and victorious. A bar card is a license to practice law, not a license to be arrogant, domineering, or nasty. While some attorneys choose to scratch and claw their way through interactions with their colleagues, this is neither a productive means of communicating nor of seeking resolution to any matter. When you know the rules and the law, you are far less likely to be steamrolled by an attorney who appears to know it all. Just a sample, folks, just a sample.
Isn't that a great sample, everyone? Oh my gosh. Well, I am so excited because we do have someone standing by to meet and talk about a few different things. Tammy Berman is coming on in the next couple of minutes here, not even. And this is just so great. And we're going to go back to some more of those quotes. So ladies, be ready, during the show, because it just gives us such an insight to everything that you are talking about, and we're ready to read that book. I know we are. So, do we have Tammy in the wings?
Yes, we do. I'm going to add her here to the stream. All right. And Tammy has to unmute.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Hey there, Tammy.
Wonderful.
Nice to see you.
Tammy, it's so good to have you with us.
Thank you for
I've been
having me.
excited to meet you.
Nice to meet
I'd
you
like
too.
to introduce you to everyone so that you have the opportunity to go through some questions with us and how you feel about what we're speaking about. And I'm just so excited. You're such a lovely human being from reading your bio. So without further ado, welcome Tammy Berman. She is a licensed mental health counselor, a national board certified counselor, an accredited collaborative professional facilitator, a Supreme Court certified family mediator, and the list just goes on. I mean, she's just so decorated in accolades. I would spend half this time and not have a chance to speak to you. We love that in addition, she's a member of Toastmasters. So we're not going to hear those ums and ahs I'm hearing here. I got the clicker of Toastmasters International and the Florida Mental Health Association. She also put a little tidbit in the private chat talking about imposter syndrome. I have to tell you, my coaching, I get that asked all the time. How do you overcome that? So maybe we'll get a chance to speak about that. But I do want to welcome you, Tammy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Really happy to be here and to support Kristen and Sandy in their book launch. And I love the messages that they're sharing. I didn't realize that I put my message in a private chat. I would have put it in public chat, but it was just in relation to the messages you guys are sharing. And so thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Well, we do have some questions for you because we want you to help us shake up this book launch. So let me ask you, what does civility mean to you in your profession?
Yeah, well, civility for me means being respectful and kind, being humble. I have worked with quite a variety of people over the years, from just all walks of life, all levels of mental health, illness and wellness. And so my approach to working with people and just dealing with people in general is to really believe and approach people with the idea that everybody has something to teach me. I don't care where you come from. You could be homeless on the streets. And I really do believe I have something to learn from every interaction I have. And I think that helps me to stay humble and to be civil, because there's always something that's what I believe. There's always something you're going to learn from someone.
That's a beautiful statement. Oh my gosh, it should be one of the taglines for everyone in this world. You know, I love the analogy with even the homeless person. So that's beautiful. I could tell you have a beautiful soul. What types of issues arise in your line of work, Tammy, when it comes to the area of bullying, which is one of the chapters, of course, in the book, and that's why we're asking.
Yeah. So, I'm lucky working in the mental health field in comparison to being an attorney in litigation, which I started to interface in with collaborative. But in the mental health world, we're all very kind and compassionate and caring. And so there's a lot of civility. And so where I see bullying show up and incivility is in the personal lives of the people I work with. One of my specialties is working with teens. So bullying does show up a lot in the histories of the teens that I see. It's been part of their childhood, usually experience in schools. So that's where I've seen it most often. In the collaborative world where I help people through the divorce process, it's very uncommon, thankfully, that I haven't seen too much bullying, but where it shows up in once in a blue moon is in the dynamic of a couple where there's been some kind of impower balance or history of abuse of some degree of it. And so my job in that context is to help manage, well, it would be in any context, to help manage the relationship. And I'm also really lucky in the collaborative world that I feel like attorneys moving into the collaborative divorce process really value peacemaking. And so I haven't been exposed to what I hear and have learned a lot in working with Kristen and other attorneys about what they experience often in the world of litigation, really, fighting and winning and playing dirty, just not nice. So I haven't experienced that, and I'm grateful for that in terms of my work environment. And so it's more in the clients' lives that a variety of forms of uncivility, whatever the proper term is.
I love that. Well, you're so fortunate. And like you said, in your area of practice, you are civil to one another, kind and compassion and all those elements that make for a fabulous, collaborator, and also, someone that can work with mental illness. I mean, very,
Yeah.
very huge topic. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not fighting and competing. When I reach out to a psychiatrist or another mental health provider that's referred somebody to me, we're working to collaborate and to learn from each other, so we can be most helpful to our clients. I think that's a great way to think of working with clients, period. And in the world of attorneys, that's what I think about is. The environment is kind of set up to be in competition, but it doesn't have to be so. You're both looking to serve some kind of an end, a resolution. So, but it's not my arena. I don't have too much to say on it because thankfully, I don't live in it too much.
Well, being that you are the president of the Collaborative Family Law Professionals of South Florida.
Mouthful, right?
Yes, and your leadership and your involvement with FACP and IACP, create a link for us on the benefits that you see in collaborative law and collaborative corresponding to the industry. How is that elevating and how is that helping us?
I mean, it's a labor of love. When I first found out about the collaborative process, it was because I was marketing myself to family law attorneys. And months later, this one attorney reached out to me who got a letter from me and had talked to me on the phone for about an hour and a half and introduced me to this collaborative process I'd never heard about. So when I learned about the mechanics and the approach of the collaborative process to resolving conflict, to me, it is a way more superior way to help families through a very challenging time where there is a lot of conflict. There's a lot of differing perspectives. There may be competition for resources and fears around sharing your kids that you never had to share time with before. There's so much that goes into it. And here's this collaborative process that's approach is so much more supportive in meeting the needs of mutual and divergent interests, but it's a family helping them to reorganize. So I'm a huge believer in the collaborative process as really being I'm hoping one day that it will be the first thought for any person going through actually any kind of dispute, to be honest. Like I have a vision of collaborative process reaching kind of overhauling the legal system one day, because it makes more sense in terms of how we approach conflict. Because behind every conflict, whether it's corporate, whatever it is, there's humans behind the issues. They're the ones that are part of the thing. So in a collaborative process, it's an interest-based process. It's understanding the human factor. And I think this is my words, it takes into account the delusion that there's a right and wrong and a black and white, and there's only one answer to this that makes sense. There is not. It is a million points of perspective that, we could dumb it down to, it's two sides here, two different perspectives, but there's many perspectives on each side that There's got to be a middle ground to come to. There's no one or the other. So it serves people so much better, and it protects relationships so much more. And that's my commentary on collaborative. Yeah.
I love that, and I'm finding there's a synergy within the word understanding human beings, human contact. And as I said before you joined the show, I'm so stoked about getting my hands on this book, and especially because it's made up of quotes and stories and real life. And, maybe we can shake up this world. And I agree 1,000% with you, Tammy, of your feelings and emotions. I love a million points of perspective. I'm going to steal that from you.
Oh, please don't. That's my future book.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to just steal it when I'm talking to my coaching client.
Okay. You can steal it then.
Perception destroys. People are predisposed and and I'm always talking about, you see a 6, I see a 9. It's okay. Let's work it out. Right? So that's so amazing. Well, Kristen or Sandy, do you have any questions for Tammy? We have a few minutes left.
I just want to say thank you so much, Tammy, for coming on and supporting Civility Wins. I couldn't have thought of a more accomplished and perfect person to have this discussion with. So thank you so much for your time, is what I want to say.
I absolutely co-sign that. Thank you so much, Tammy. We truly appreciate you. And, I know that you're in a profession where, logically speaking, it would make sense for therapists to get along. I'm just curious, when you have conflicts with a client, what types of dynamics do you deal with in that context?
That happens on rare occasions, but it absolutely does happen. And I've learned over the years on how to manage that better and better, where there is this conflict, something is received wrong, unintended, right? And so what I've learned over the years is to pause, take a breath, actually kind of go back, like step back within my mind in terms of understand, like working towards trying to understand where this person is coming from, and recognizing this is an intentional strategy, that this isn't, whatever's coming at me is not exactly about me. And that is a really effective strategy. I would recommend that for everybody. So there's a comment that I learned in training in the Gottman approach, which is a couples therapy, evidence-based approach, which is that underlying every criticism and complaint is a need that's not being met. Something is there that's underneath for that person that they're struggling with. You're the target. They're coming at you for it, right. But it's not exactly about you. And if you can approach somebody, anybody that's coming at you with stuff, with a sense of compassion, not disrespectful, not demeaning, but with genuine curiosity to help me understand, what am I missing here? What was it I said or did that put you in this place? Realizing that there's something that you always likely are missing in terms of information for understanding that person, the more successful you will be at being helpful and of service. And then maybe it is something you've done, but it's, there's something more to that. So that's something I've learned over the years that's been really, really helpful. I'm intentional about that. I make mistakes. I jump into life and I course correct as I go. And so life is a wonderful teacher for the mistakes and when you rub up against somebody in the wrong way, right? And they come at you. So it's the best thing you can do is give pause, give yourself space, not to counterattack, not to defend yourself so quick. Just wait a moment, give yourself some space to try to figure out and understand that person. So that would be my commentary and advice, and what I do in dealing with conflict that comes up, even if it's directed at me.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah.
You sound like a chapter to the book.
Yes.
I knew reading your resume, the feeling of goodness and graciousness just poured out of you. And I am so excited to have met you. And we're just so happy that you are one of our guests, our first guest in launching
Thank
this
you.
book.
And I just want to say, I'm over the course of time that you guys have been talking about and working on the content and learning from people that speak to the different chapters you've made, I'm so interested and excited to hear your book. And I really do support your intention to share positive message and to help. I think your intention is to really help people see another way to do business, to do the business of conflict resolution, and to help change the landscape for everybody, for the benefit, for the good, for the greater good, right? So
Yes,
I'm like really excited for you guys and happy for you guys too. Thank you so much for being like allowing me to be here and talk to you guys.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you,
Tammy, so much. Yes. And you're welcome to stay with us. But we're going to move along a little bit here, and we welcome, any comments, and thank you again. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you.
So going further on into the thought process of the book, I want to come back to both you, Kristen and Sandy, and give us another little tidbit. Give us another little crumb of information about another chapter in the book.
So, one thing I would tell you as an overall thought, I remember in particular one day we were talking about the way that we would communicate with opposing counsel, or even sometimes co-counsel, because we had a situation, we had an interesting situation with somebody, and it was like, analyzing emails is something important that people need to analyze their own emails before they send them, because emails have a story that goes beyond the words that are typed on the screen. And you start to understand the mindset of the person that's sending the email. And so we got to the point where we would start to just write about different issues. And I'm going to go back to something that we were talking about that had to do with buffoonery. And I don't know if Kristen remembers this. But it was just like one of these situations where I'm reading the message. I read it to Kristen, and Kristen's like, no. And I'm just thinking to myself, do I even need to respond to this? I really do not need to respond. So the quote says, "You can't expect to reason with buffoonery. A surprising number of attorneys exhibit behavior known as buffoonery, and you'll probably recognize it when you see it, but you won't believe you're actually seeing it, because you're going to sit back and think, did I just hear what I heard, or did I just see what I just saw?" Buffoonery is defined as ridiculous behavior. Clowning, tomfoolery, and shenanigans are synonyms. When you encounter buffoonery, you will have to decide whether to let it ride or take it on, and your decision will depend on the potential impact the buffoonery may have on your case. Pick your battles accordingly. Buffoonery goes against logic and reason. Your first interaction with a buffoon of an attorney will have you asking yourself, did that really just happen? You will be shocked that this individual somehow managed to pass the bar exam and the professional responsibility exam. You'll question the concepts of civility, respect, and decorum, and wonder how in the world you'll be able to maintain your own sense of civility when you're required to interact with the buffoon again. It is natural that a reasonable person cannot be exposed to an unreasonable person without some strain and friction. You cannot communicate with this type of attorney as you would the average attorney. Instead, your interactions will be a chess game. You'll need to calculate your every move, question every position, and analyze every action before you take it. The buffoons will dance through holes in your arguments. They'll focus on petty aspects of your case, and then they're going to toss crazy curveballs at you. Through it all, you must strive for the high road and maintain your professionalism and your sanity. Make sure to preserve your legal arguments for the record. Document everything. Avoid unnecessary communications and do not attempt to reason with the unreasonable. Resist the temptation to fight buffoonery with logic. You cannot control others. The only person you can control is yourself, and you have to find your peace with that.
Amen. That's all I could say to that.
I feel like I'm back at that moment right now because I remember why we wrote this particular one.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
I love the term, you know. It's wonderful. Wonderful. Kristen, how about you? Do you have something that resonates with you?
Well, just listening to Sandy read that, and I can guess that this is a situation she's talking about. But for me, and anyone who knows me, there'll be a time where, okay, let's have a conversation. But when I see that we're just missing points and we're not communicating to hear or to understand, we're just communicating and we're talking at each other, I'm going to have one last conversation with you or one last communication with you. And it's going to be, okay, this is how I communicate. I don't talk at a person. I talk to a person, and we talk to get an understanding or to gain an understanding. If that's not going to be the case, that's fine, but just know that I'm going to ignore. And I'm telling you now that I will ignore so that you have a heads up. So when the communication continues and you're on ignore, do not be surprised that you're being ignored. But, you know, certain individuals, I guess, are surprised that they're being ignored. But I can't say I didn't give you a forewarning. But I say that to say, you know, like Sandy mentioned, pick your battles. For peace sake, it's not even in life. People think of win, lose. To me, it's about maintaining peace. Life in and of itself is hard. And I want to make sure I go through life just being kind, courteous to people, because that's just the right thing to do. And like I said earlier, it's stressful in and of itself going through life. Why tack on to the stress of things that you can't control? So if it's something that I can't control, then what am I going to do? You know, so the only person I can control is myself, and be, you know, good with that and move forward.
Yeah, I love that. You know, that silent killer. I'll just share a quick thing that happened the other day. One of the opposing counsel kept emailing the attorney, and he chose to ignore. He had a situation and he chose to ignore. So then they tried the tactic of calling in. Well, when they couldn't talk to, you know, somebody, they called back a different person from the same firm to try to talk to somebody else, and so on and so forth. And then finally they were able to infiltrate, because they got to the receptionist, and she has the calendar, and of course we can make an appointment for you. It forced the hand of the attorney to have a conversation. So was it exactly what he wanted to do at the moment? But it was long coming. So tactics that are out there are sneaky. That's all I want to say. People are very sneaky. And everything you're saying is so wonderful and so true. So yeah, I mean, wow. Emails. The shouting email. So many emails. So,
oh man, don't get me
you know,
started.
and how that the revolutionization of our world and the hurry up and wait that has come from emailing is crazy. I remember in the 1980s, fax machines, we were afraid of them because it meant you had to get the answer right away.
Yeah.
But email is worse. And now text messaging and voiceover and all of that, it's killing us. So I'm glad Civility Wins is coming to you soon. So pick up the book, every one of you. Every one of you, pick up the book. I think it's going to change the dynamics of the entire universe as far as that goes. So I'm super excited. It's long overdue. I wonder what we were waiting for. I guess the birth of Kristen and Sandy.
Thank you, Bianca.
You're
Bianca, I have
welcome.
to tell you a little side story, and Kristen's gonna laugh when I say this. So Kristen and I used to have calls where we'd just be on the phone for hours in between the writing of this book, because we were always dealing with different scenarios. And I would be on the phone with Kristen, and you could literally hear, this is what it seemed like. It was like Kristen was going like this, and it would be Kristen responding to somebody at like an off hour in the day. And Kristen has since changed all of this process, but there was a point in time where both Kristen and I would respond to emails at all hours of the day. So it could be an email coming through at 9 o'clock and we're like, oh, so you think you're going to eat? And this is where it goes right here. And so one day I'm sitting on the phone with Kristen. I'm like, Kristen, what are you doing right now? She's like, oh, I'm writing a response because, and I said, Kristen, it's 9 o'clock at night. Can you please stop typing? She was already pressing send. She's like, I already sent it. And I was just like, and it was just like, but that was a reflection of the time, because the same would happen with me. I'd be on the phone with Kristen and I'm typing something and she's like, oh, so, and I'm like, I'm writing a response right now. Like, they're gonna know what I had to say. And it was just like, one day we were talking about, I was like, why are we so quick to respond to the nonsense? Because some of it is really just establishing boundaries. And when I say being able to separate ourselves from this constant, incessant desire to respond to every knack that was sending us a message, and sometimes messages that were just not needing a response. I think when we both kind of came to that point individually, it really made a world of difference in the way that we engaged. And I'll let Kristen speak for herself, but I know for me, my stress level has gone down drastically. I've even at this point, I finally outsourced my phone lines. So I don't even answer calls. Calls come through I get the messages. It's decreased my stress tremendously. And I'll let Kristen add if she wants to add something to that.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, it takes a weight off. I feel lighter, much lighter.
Yeah, there has to be a time where you say, I'm off duty. Right? You really have to give yourself that break, and also to acknowledge that you're more worthy and your time is very precious. So I feel the same way. Turn that computer off. Turn it off. So we're actually waiting for our next guest speaker at 12:30, which is in just 2 minutes. Lorna Brown-Burton. Is she in our waiting room?
Oh, yes, she is.
Oh, fantastic. And I know, Tammy, you have to leave us, but you are just a delight and a ray of sunshine. Thank you so much for being part of our world.
Thank you, Tammy. We appreciate you.
So.
All right. So I'm going to bring up, are you doing an intro before I bring her up?
No, let her come on in and we'll introduce her, and that way she can hear what we're saying.
All right, Miss Lorna, how are you today? Well, you are on mute.
Thank you.
Hi, Miss Lorna Brown-Burton.
Hi there, Miss Bianca. How are you?
Awesome. I'd like to introduce you, if I may. I want everybody to meet you and tell them a little bit about the unbelievable accolades that you have, under your belt. There's too many to mention for this short program, but I'm going to give them a little bit of insight. So everyone, please meet Lorna Brown-Burton, who is an AV-rated attorney, licensed to practice law, of course, in the state of Florida since 1987. Look at her. She looks fabulous. We're going into 4 decades here, right? So, and she's also licensed in the Southern District of Florida since 1990. Miss Brown-Burton, am I saying your name right?
Brown-Burton. Yep, fine, perfect.
Primary area of practice is workmen's compensation defense, representing employers, self-insured carriers. all of those types for 35 years and has experience in labor and employment law, Social Security, disability, very important, and foreclosure defense. Lorna also practices in bankruptcy law, representing individuals in Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. That alone is such an accomplishment. Oh my goodness. Lorna has been very involved with the Florida Bar on the local and on statewide associations, really too numerous to mention. But I want to give you some highlights. Ms. Brown-Burton was elected to the Florida Bar Board of Governors as one of the 17th Circuit representatives for Broward County in 2012. But she continues to serve at the 17th Circuit, representing the Board of Governors, and she is present and to this present is recently reelected to serve 2021 to 2023. Boy, they must like you. You must be doing something right, my dear. Ms. Brown-Burton was awarded the President's Award of Merit June 2017 by President William Bill Schaffino. She is a member of the Broward County Bar Association, the National Bar Association, the TJ Rhetoric Bar Association, the Virgil Hawkins Florida Chapter Affiliation of National Bar Association, the Caribbean Bar Association, etc., etc., etc. Also involved in FLAW, which is the Women's Bar Association, the Black Lawyers Association. I mean, woman, you are just rocking and rolling. You have so much to offer us. So without further ado, I couldn't think of anyone more seasoned to talk to us about Civility Wins. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome you, and everyone, please welcome Miss Lorna Brown-Burton.
Thank you very much, Bianca. And thank you as well to Sandy and Kristen for inviting me to be here with the launch. I am excited for these two ladies and what they're up to in our profession and the promoting in our profession. That civility is something that is a winner. So thank you again for being here.
Well, that is just wonderful. We're just so happy to have you and excited as well. I do have some questions for you, Lorna. What does civility mean to you in your profession and all the lives that you touch throughout your years of knowledge and wisdom and grace?
Yes, well, thank you. And so, first of all, let me say, for background, I think what we need to address first are the 4 C's of professionalism. And that is character, competence, commitment, and civility. So when I speak to civility so that there is that understanding, I think we need to look at the other 3 C's of professionalism, because civility is one aspect of professionalism. So character is where we display ethical behavior at all times, whether we are on or off the clock as lawyers, attorneys, or, as I think sometimes we forget that we're actually also counselors at law, right? Of law. And then we have competence, which is, again, and I heard, when I jumped on the conversation about confidence, right? So competence is expressing confidence, not arrogance. Like, I think Sandy was the one that brought that up. And you become an expert in your field by keeping up with continuing education, attending seminars, and remaining teachable as attorneys, lawyers, counselors of law, which we should all identify as. And then we have commitment, which is complete work, timely and in a high quality manner, and holding oneself accountable for our words and actions, relentless pursuit for a high level of performance. And lastly, and yet just as important, and if not even so much more important, is civility. It's acting in a manner that engenders respect for the law and the profession. You know, as a lawyer, as a counselor, as an attorney, all of those terms for which I identify, you hear so many times those lawyer jokes, or that we come in right above the car salesman. Nothing against car salesmen. And yet it becomes that sort of joke out there, right? So it's a code of decency or respect that is the hallmark. And let me say that again, that is the hallmark of citizenry in the legal profession. So simply said, for me, civility is polite remarks used in formal conversation or just conversation, whether that be verbal or written. Formal politeness and courtesy in behavior or speech. It is courtesy and politeness. And if I could just add the ABA, of which I agree with and adopt, civility is an important concept within the legal profession that should be considered when acting as an advocate and counsel. Civility can be defined simply as acting with formal politeness and courtesy when communicating or working with opposing parties, opposing counsel, clients, and outside parties. No matter what area of the practice of law, we're going to have all of those parties at one time or another as part of our case. So while it's, I think, a mouthful and much there to digest, yet I think it should be at the core of our profession, along with the other 3 C's for the 4 C's that we get of professionalism. So we know that professionalism in and of itself is a core value for us in the legal profession, but also is the expectation that a lawyer will do more than just the basic ethical standards. I think also, and I know being a member of the Florida Bar Board of Governors, one that's sit on the Disciplinary Review Committee, have also been on the grievance committees locally in the 17th Circuit, which is Broward County, and was also a chair of one of the grievance committee, that the Florida Bar expects the lawyers, attorneys, counselors of law, however you identify in the profession, to pursue and practice the highest ideals and tenets of the legal profession.
No, absolutely. I feel like that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And, being the lion on the book, let's start talking about how do you eat that lion for civility, one bite at a time. That, everything that you brought to light so eloquently, thank you so much. That is, it resonates, everything you said, and again, coming back to remaining teachable, the understanding, it's, we have a theme running through this civility launch of this magnificent book. I do have another question for you, Lorna. What type of issues arise in the line of work when it comes to the areas of ethics? That is actually, ethics is one of the chapters in the book, and that is why I'm asking this question.
Sure. And I think, as I alluded to earlier, there is that very high level of professionalism, and ethics is really speaks to a lawyer's or an attorney or a counselor's of law professional conduct. It's our minimal standard. And no matter what area of practice, as you mentioned, I primarily workers' comp defense with experience as well in labor and employment and bankruptcy and, some foreclosure defense. So some areas there in real estate law, that no matter what area of the law, we are all bound by, as lawyers here that practice in the state of Florida, a level of professional conduct, a minimal level, and that starts with ethics. And Chapter 4 of the rules regulating the Florida Bar addresses the rules of professional conduct, which governs 7 functions that lawyers perform. Again, no matter what area of practice, and it's true whether you identify as a lawyer or as an attorney or a counselor of law, and we should really identify as all, because they all have a role at certain times in our practice, right? So this begins at Rule 4-1.1 and goes through Rule 4-8.6, which again govern lawyer conduct and speaks to lawyer ethics. And so lawyer ethics is the minimal standard to avoid avoid lawyer discipline, and professionalism, which we already touched on with the discussion about the 4 C's and civility being one of those, goes beyond ethics. And 4 of the 7 functions apply to all lawyers specifically. And the other 3, while also applying to lawyers, deal with when you're in a firm or group setting, our obligation for pro bono service, and advertising, which are also very important to what we do as lawyers. So if I can just a minute, just quickly address some of those 7 functions the ethics rules cover, which I think are the ethical issues that arise in the legal profession and in the day-to-day practice of a lawyer, right? It talks about the client-lawyer relationship. It talks about what does it mean to be a counselor to that client. What does it mean to be an advocate for the client? What is it to do transactions with persons other than the clients? And that sounds a little ominous, and I'll get into a little bit more on that. And if you are with a law firm or associations, what is required there? What are my public service obligations? Along with information about legal stories, which is just about what do we do as lawyers when we choose to advertise and advertise to the public about how we might be able to meet their needs as lawyers. And so, again, if I may just delve into those a little bit more, you have the client-lawyer relationship. And basically, our rules tells us that a lawyer must provide competent representation to a client. What does that mean? This requires the legal knowledge, skill, thoroughness, and preparation reasonably necessary for the representation. Minimal, right? For the necessary representation. If you are a counselor, right? That other hat we wear as lawyers in representing a client, a lawyer shall exercise independent professional judgment and render candid advice. A lawyer may not refer not only to law, but to other considerations such as moral, economic, social, and political factors that may be relevant to the client's situation. So we also not only about the law, but looking at all those considerations when we are taking on the hat of counselor. As an advocate, a lawyer shall not bring or defend a proceeding or assert or controvert an issue therein unless there is a basis in law and fact for doing so that is not frivolous, which includes a good faith argument for an extension, modification, or reversal of existing law. And then we have transactions with persons other than clients, basically the opposing party, the judge, the court, the judicial system. So when we talk about transactions with other than clients, we're speaking to those other parties which are usually involved in that action or matter that we're pursuing for our client. And in the course of representing a client, a lawyer shall not knowingly make a false statement of material fact or law to a third person or fail to disclose a material fact to a third person when disclosure is necessary to avoid assisting a criminal or fraudulent act by a client, unless the rules prohibit disclosure. So basically, there is the need to protect the integrity of the judicial system. And so then we, as I said, there is that talks about if you're in a law firm or an association where, we sometimes work to become a partner or a managing attorney in a law firm, right? And that partner in a law firm and a lawyer who individually or together with other lawyers possess comparable managerial authority in a law firm shall make reasonable efforts to ensure that the firm has in effect measures giving reasonable assurance that all lawyers therein conform to the rules of professional conduct. So there's even a heightened responsibility or a greater responsibility for that partner or that managing attorney or group of managing attorneys. And lastly, is that public service that we talked about. Each member of the Florida Bar in good standing as part of that member's professional responsibility should render pro bono service to the poor and participate to the extent possible in other pro bono service activities that directly relate to the legal needs of the poor. Now, this does not apply to members of the judiciary, their staff, or to government lawyers because they are prohibited from performing legal services by statute or rule. And then the last definitely is advertising. And advertisements for legal employment has to include the name of at least one lawyer, the law firm, the lawyer referral service, if the ad is for the lawyer referral service, the qualifying provider, if the ad is for the qualifying provider, or the lawyer directory, if the ad is going to be for the lawyer directory, responsible for the content of the ad, as well as the city, town, or county of one or more bona fide office locations of the lawyer who will perform the services advertised. So I think the bottom line is ethics in the legal profession are rules designed to provide guidance to lawyers and to provide a structure for regulating conduct through disciplinary agencies. Here, that has been given to the Florida Bar Board of Governors, with the final say for discipline being the Florida Supreme Court. And they are not designed, however, to be a basis for civil liability, just to, again, deal with lawyer conduct at the minimal level. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for all that information. In the interest of time, though, we do have our next guest. That definitely enlightened us. We should all go back and look at that. And we really appreciate you being here. You're welcome to stay, or, we're happy to have you. But we do have our next guest, Miss Hilary Creary, coming along. And you're just a dynamo. I just love it. Thank you so
for
much
coming,
for
Lorna.
Thank you. I love being here, and I will hang around to hear my colleague Hilary, with whom I sit on the Florida Bar Board of Governors. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, wow, guys, you've got a lot of information there. And within Civility Wins, I'm sure you're going to have some of that context and be able to, enjoy it as much as possible. So without further ado, let's bring on Hilary.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Hi, Hilary. Good to see you.
How are you?
Hilary, please allow me to introduce you to everyone. Everyone on the program, meet Hilary Creary, who received her BA and JD Nova Southeastern University. She's right here in our backyard. She practices in all areas of family law and is also a guardian ad litem. Thank you so much for your service there. And a family law mediator. Hilary, know that because her accolades are so long and wide. We don't even have enough time in this, little episode to tell you about it, but she's someone to be reckoned with. She is currently a member of the Florida Board of Governors, representing the 17th Circuit, and has held leadership positions in multiple voluntary bar associations. That alone makes her a giver. She's with the Women Lawyers Association, the Caribbean Bar, founder founding member of the legal advisor for the Jamaican Women Organization. Hilary's received numerous awards throughout her career, and to name a few, the 2018 Florida Bar President's Award for pro bono services in the 17th Judicial Court. She works tireless to represent clients who cannot otherwise afford legal services. That you get a big kiss from me. The 2022 President's Award for her work on the COVID-19 Pandemic Recovery Task Force. You definitely are a force to be reckoned with, young lady. Hilary and her husband, Daryl, are the proud parents of Charles, Diona, is that how I pronounce that? And David. And she is a doting grandparent over Gavin. Everyone, let me present to you and welcome Hilary Clary. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you. And we know that you're going to add value to this program with this wonderful launch of the Civility Wins book. I have a question for you. How does civility, what does civility mean to you in your profession?
Well, I'm a pretty simple girl. And so I like to pay attention to the wisdom that came before me. And my grandmother and my parents before me, my grandparents and then my parents before me, taught me about the golden rule. And I think if you remember that you're to treat people with kindness, with respect, then you'll be treated in the same way. I think sometimes in our profession, we get caught up in the professionalism, which is fairly evident. We get to understand about ethics, but basic civility, being respectful of other people. I think that we don't focus quite as much on civility as we should.
Yes, it comes up in so many instances with your advocates and your adversaries and everyone in between, including the receptionist, right?
Well, the thing is, our system of laws is adversarial in nature, but we don't have to be adversaries in order to accomplish the goals of our clients. So while we talk, and I heard a portion of Lorna's presentation, and so while we're taught and we're expected to follow the rules of ethics, and we're expected to apply professionalism in everything that we do, basic civility is something that is of concern now to the court because there's such lack of civility in our profession, as in many professions right now. I think, and I hate to say it this way, but COVID, one of the results of the pandemic, and converting to Zoom hearings, and change the way we see civility. In the old days, and I've been around a long time, so in the old days, you were at the courthouse, your opposing counsel is in the hallway with you. You know that person, you're talking face to face with that person. It's kind of hard to have a conversation with somebody in the hallway or while you're waiting for your hearing to be called, and you're talking to each other with civility, and then you walk into the courtroom and are disrespectful to each other. It just doesn't happen. I think Zoom changed that, though. I think in Zoom, we have this sort of disconnect from each other. And so I think there's been an increase in the lack of civility because of the fact that we're not as connected to each other as we used to be.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. Nothing will ever replace a handshake or a hug.
And we used to be able to do that. I remember when I first started practicing, because I only do family law, and I remember you would pick up the phone when you got a case. I still do that on every single one of my cases. Pick up the phone, call your opposing counsel and say, hey, I've read your pleadings. I'm new on this case. Why don't we talk about what we really want to do with this case? Where do you want to go with this? What is it that you expect from me? And we have a conversation a virtual handshake, yes, over the phone. But we understood the rules and sort of where we were going with the case. I don't think there's a generation now that understands that. And I don't want to say it's the younger lawyers, because there's some lawyers who've been doing it as long as I have who still get it wrong. But there's no need to be offensive. There's no need to go to war. And I think, and you'll find out because you don't know me well, but I can tell you, I think television and the movies and expectations, clients have a different expectation of what their advocates will do for them. And unfortunately, as in every profession, you have those people who have the expectation. So you have clients who come to you with the expectation, especially in family law work, I want you to bury that person, or I want you to go for the jugular. And as soon as I hear that kind of language from a prospective client, I advise them to find somebody else. My goal is to educate you. My goal is to be a great advocate for what it is that you want to accomplish. First, I'm going to educate you as to whether or not what you want to accomplish is legal, doable, what the law says we can do about that. And then we'll talk about a plan, a game plan. But I'm managing that expectation. And if your expectation of me is not to be your educator or your advocate, but to go for the jugular of the other person, I'm not that lawyer, and I'm not the one you need to talk to. Because for me, civility, professionalism, ethics, my reputation relies on all three. And I am not willing to risk my reputation as a lawyer for anybody. So so you get to tell your clients, manage your expectations. That's what I think.
No, absolutely. My gosh. Well, it's so graceful, your words. And so they resonate within me, being in the legal industry for 40 years, trying to teach attorneys how to behave well, play nice in the sandbox, everything they learned in kindergarten, it resonates with me. And reputation is so important. And having people know, like, and trust you,
yes,
is everything.
And the selection of an attorney depends on that. When it says it right there, the hiring of an attorney is an important thing, and you should make sure that the attorney that you pick to represent you is on the same page with you about those kinds of issues, about civility and basic human respect. There's no need for me to be disrespectful, not to a judge any more than to the clerk, or to the security guy at the gate letting me into the courthouse, or the person who's parking, I'm paying to, when I park my car. Everybody I think generally everybody in the universe needs to be treated with respect, but, but we need to treat people equally with respect, and certainly with each other. And you have a beautiful group of women here, and we all are on the same page about that. Once a year, there's this program that the Broward County Bar does called Got Civility. And it's very important to me that, the problem is that when you have these programs like Got Civility, it's the people who show up, it's the same people, and they're not the offenders. The people who are the offenders are not there. And so the question is, how do you reach the people who are guilty of lack of civility? And I do a lot of presentations to groups on the question of professionalism and ethics and civility. I am the chair of the professionalism panel. Every circuit has one. Some are more active than others. And as chair of the professionalism panel, we get complaints about lawyers who are being disrespectful. It doesn't rise to the level of a discipline matter. So it's not like it's referred through the discipline process. But we get to make recommendations about, in my role, I've recommended people attend ethics school, go back and learn how to be nice and play well in the sandbox. We can recommend educational type, a mentor, get somebody a mentor if they need it. If they're having a breakdown because of, whatever, mental health issues, drugs, alcohol, lawyers are a microcosm of the rest of the universe. So we have issues. And so we can make certain recommendations. We can help people so they don't repeat the behavior. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so important. You're so refreshing. I really think being in the position you're at, we should make that civility program a requirement of the bar in your county. So maybe that's something that could be brought as it's a recommended, just like they do with young attorneys. They have the recommended course that they must take, I don't know, 15 hours or something like that. So that
yeah,
would
we
be
still have
amazing.
that. It's called practicing with professionalism, and everybody has
Yeah.
to take that. Every young lawyer has to take that. And then, of course, we have continuing legal education requirements, and there are a percentage of them has to be in the ethics. So we have to take ethics violations, just like we have to take technology, CLEs, so it is already part of sort of the curriculum. And most people who offer CLE programs offer some ethics component. I just think, again, the challenge with that is that you're always preaching to the choir. So
Yes.
if you could reach the people who don't show up for those are the people. So, and I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but I believe in forcing people to do the things they don't want to do because it's in their best interest to do it. Kind of like kids, eat your vegetables. I want to say to some lawyers sometimes when I see them behaving badly, just go to an ethics class. Just go see go to a civility class. But unfortunately, we're a self-regulating profession. So, one of the things though is, and it's always bothered me, it's about, we are our brother's keepers, yes? As lawyers, as members of the same bar, we are our brother's keepers. There's a requirement that if your brother is in trouble or sister is in trouble, it is your responsibility to say something. You don't have to report them if not everybody's comfortable with filing that report on another lawyer, but say to somebody, my sister, my brother, I see something's going on with you. Can I help you? I had a situation recently where I had someone call me about an attorney a judge actually called me and wanted to report an attorney who was being disrespectful, in a courtroom, had misrepresented something in the courtroom. And the intention was to report it through the discipline process. And I found out through the conversation with the judge that the attorney was a young attorney. And I said, Your Honor, when I became a lawyer 25 years ago, however long it's been, I didn't know what I was doing either. But you know what? I had a judge pull me aside one day and say, you've been in front of me now a couple of times. Come sit in my office. I see that you're doing this, whatever it was I was doing, over and over again. Here's a better way to do that. And that judge made a difference in the rest of my life. And I said to the judge, instead of reporting this young lawyer who may not know what she's doing through the bar discipline process, how about you just call her in your chambers? You don't want to have ex parte communication with an ongoing case, but call both lawyers together and say, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I'm worried about. How about we do this differently? And she said she would think about it. And she called me back the next day and she said, you know what? I'm glad you told me that. Had a conversation with them, She apologized profusely. She didn't know what she was doing. And now we're in a different level. And I think if more judges would do that and more senior lawyers would do that, if you see your brother, sister in trouble, say something to them. They may not know any better. And that's why I think sometimes mentorship is important too. Mentoring young lawyers, and everybody on this call has mentored law students, and I know that for a fact, mentored young lawyers, mentored law students, because I think it's important. It starts with law students, right? Getting them so that when they hit the profession, they understand their obligation with regard to ethics, professionalism, and civility.
Yes, absolutely true. Oh my God, you are a princess in this industry. I love everything that has come out of your mouth. You have made a fantastic segue to bring on Braulio Rosa, who's our next speaker. I couldn't have planned this better, my dear. Hilary, I look forward to meeting you in person one day.
Likewise.
Your heart is genuine and a genuine heart draws other hearts. I want to thank you. Ladies, did you want to say something to Hilary? And you're welcome to stay on and listen to Braulio.
I want to say thank you to Hilary, because every time I've ever met her, whether it's on a case or in passing, she's always been extremely pleasant, supportive, has good words to say, and even some supportive things during some cases. She doesn't realize this, but she has been helpful to me.
Thank
Thank you for coming. Love you.
Kristen, love you more.
Thank you so much.
And I'll sit down and listen to Braulio.
Thank you so much. Please stay and listen to Braulio. So with that, can you bring Braulio on board? Thank you, Hilary.
All right, we are at the last straw here. Mr. Braulio, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you so much.
Look at him.
My
He looks
pleasure.
like he's coming from, Channel 6 News or something. Or, just so equipped. They just really do it up right at the Broward Bar. Braulio is a good friend of mine. I adore him. I have had the pleasure of being around him for almost his infancy at the Broward Bar. But let me introduce him to the rest of you who may not know who he is. Braulio Rosa received his undergrad degree from FAU and went on to earn 2 master degrees. I am so impressed. One in education and the other in public administration. It goes without saying you're in the right place. Braulio has been at the Broward Bar Association, which is a fast approaching 4,000 members. Bravo to you, Braulio, and has a budget of more than $1 million since 2011. And he has served as the executive director there. I was right there when he got promoted. Rosa's prior experience include 18 years of working in marketing, advertising, a high level local government, and he's just done a variety of programs throughout his tenure there. Rosa is a member of the 17th Judicial Circuit Grievance Committee, so all friends here. The Executive Committee of the 17th Judicial Pro Bono Committee, Broward County Paralegal Advisory Committee, where we sit together, and Voices for Children Advocacy Council. Rosa was the 2021 recipient of the Marshall R. Cassidy Senior Award for exemplary services and extraordinary, which he is, support of the legal profession at the Florida Bar Annual Convention, and most recently was appointed to serve as the Vice Chair of the Florida Bar Voluntary Bar Liaison Committee. Welcome, everybody, to Braulio.
Welcome. I'm going to have to shorten that. It got a little deep there. Jeez.
We love to talk about ourselves, but I didn't want to miss anything.
Well, thank you. Very kind.
Welcome. I know that you have such a busy schedule, and we're so happy you're here for the launch of Civility Wins. We do have some questions for you, and if you'd be so kind, can you tell us what civility means to you in your profession?
Sure. I think really civility means how you conduct yourself when people aren't watching. It's easy to be the good guy or a good gal when no one's watching, or when everyone's watching, and that you've got to put on some kind of show. But it's often how you deal with difficult situations behind the scene when it's not always pretty. So yeah, definitely how you conduct yourself when no one's watching.
Yeah. How do you approach a situation when you're in your bar activities where you see something going awry? Do you get involved? Do you pull people aside? How do you handle that?
Sure. Look, I'm a big advocate for education, and I don't want to retread ground you've already talked about, but I'll say this and stop me if I've discussed this. One thing that I've noticed is that there's a lack of mentorship, and it really happened over this pandemic, because what's happened is you have all these young lawyers, and it's not because they're young and they're smart, they're good people, but before the pandemic, they were at someone's law firm, and so they had someone that would mentor and guide them. And so now a lot of people are opening their own practice, and they really just haven't had anyone to guide them through the process and what it really means to be a lawyer. So I think definitely education is important to Hilary's point, I know she said pulling someone aside and talking with them and kind of enlightening them on how they should conduct themselves. I often talk to young lawyers that come through, and it's been nearly a decade now as the executive director. And, one of the things that I've learned over time is we're such a small community, actually. When you think of Broward County, you think of this huge city like county. And, it is to a certain degree, but in many ways, it's a small town also. And the legal community is a small community. And your reputation definitely precedes you. So you always hear people say, you can ruin it very quickly. So it's a good idea for young lawyers to get some guidance from the beginning to start off on that right foot. They don't want to be known as that person who's difficult unnecessarily and so forth. So I will tell them right away, it's like people will know who you are pretty quick. Within a 6-month period, people will know who you are, whether there's someone they want to work with, or they respect you, or they don't. So it's crucial for you to start from the beginning on the positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And reputation is everything. I won't do anything to taint mine. So yeah, I agree completely. What, in your line of work, and you're dealing at a different level, you're dealing with education and marketing and so many different facets. What are some of the areas of confidence, which is one of the chapters in the book, that you can bring to light? How do you approach that area of confidence?
When you say confidence, you're talking about myself, or kind of trying to help lawyers build their confidence? I don't know. Not that they need to. I mean, they've been through law school. I mean, these are smart people. So can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, not everybody that's competent is confident.
Sure.
And you have, you exude that confidence, and, how do you lend it to others, in your area of practice?
No, that's a good question. It's look, we don't start off being confident, and I would say it's if you know your game, if you know your stuff, and you're prepared, you're well versed, then you're going to feel more confident over time. And it takes time to build that confidence, but always approach whatever you're going to do. For me, it's the various projects that I'm doing for lawyers. I'm sure it's the case that they're dealing with. Be prepared. Know it inside out, because then no one can tell you different. You know all the facts. You know everything that needs to be known. So people can argue and want to go in different ways, but you're going to be able to confidently and without being ugly in any way say, here's what's going on. Here's what needs to be done. Because you know it inside out. So it's about preparation, really. Preparation. And then being gracious when you're dealing with people, because, have the person that may not always be as gracious. So preparation, key.
Yeah, there's something I've always noticed and admired about you, Braulio. You always make everyone in the room feel as important as the other person. How do you lend that? Like, where does that come from? How could you do that? And most of our speakers, in their own way, talked about that. They're so gracious. Give us some insight.
Wow, thank you. That's a great compliment. It's something we learn, right? We learn along the way. I wasn't always that way as a younger man. I learned, hey, I like it when someone says, good job, Braulio. Like, you really killed it. You did a great job. So if I like it, why wouldn't Bianca or Kristen or Sandy let people know? Because we're so quick to say, you stunk. That was terrible. Society tends to be very quick to punish you for or say how badly you did, right? I mean, that's the way it works, unfortunately, right? Oh, you really, really screwed up on that one, right? You should be as equally quick to say, that was amazing. Great job. And I couldn't have done it without you. And you quickly learn that if you spread the love, because you can't do it alone. No man or woman can do all the things that we have to do in bar world alone. You need other leaders that are going to buy into your vision and be part of your vision, because it's a shared vision. It's not even yours. It's a shared vision to accomplish it. And then you need to thank them and give props to everyone that really helped. Because if you don't, you'll realize that no one wants to play with you. Go play in your own sandbox. So over time, I learned, be gracious and thankful for the people that contribute and help, because you can't do it alone.
Very good. Yeah, that, and that being the last word, would Sandy, Kristen, do you have something to add? Braulio, thank you so much for being with us. You're just a bright light. And you're a token man.
Well, thank you. And, when Kristen calls, you come. And I'm sorry, it's a little difficult on scheduling, but I'm so grateful that you all accommodated me, because I have a great admiration for what you're doing here. So I will always make myself available.
Truly appreciate you,
wonderful.
Braulio. Yeah.
I can only say thank you so much. Every time I've ever met Braulio as well, there are certain individuals that you meet, Lorna, Hilary, Braulio. I could never find a moment where I would say they were, would brush me off, or they don't even know me. Right. But I would always feel welcome. I remember the first time that I met Braulio, it was at the Broward County Bar, the conference center. And they were always doing events there. And I remember the first time I met him, he was just so cheery and welcoming. And it was like, hey, how you doing today? Go ahead and grab a bite, have a seat over there. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Those little things, people don't realize how much it makes a difference. So thank you so much, Braulio, for always being the same person anytime I've met you. And you probably didn't even know who I was at the time.
In that jacket, though.
You like that?
Always with the jacket, for sure. Always dressed to the nines, no matter what event was going on.
Look, I'll say one little quick thing. I didn't come from any people with tons of money. One of the things I learned is valuing everyone around you, no matter what job they do, as long as they do it honestly and hard, and they put in a good days of work. You should be respectful of that, because it deserves it. So that's where I come from.
Thank you.
And we love it, and we love you. Thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to see you with the launch of Civility Wins. I'm sure that it's something that our young attorneys should be grabbing onto, and maybe, we work together as a community to make sure that this gets out there and the news gets out there about this wonderful launch of Kristen and Sandy's book. So thank you so much for coming. We know you have a busy schedule. We're going to just wrap up the remainder of the day, and you're welcome to stay and listen. We're always happy to have you.
I just wanted to congratulate you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Braulio.
Thank you so much, Braulio.
You got it.
So ladies, what an exciting afternoon we just had. I am so happy that you have this village of people that have gathered around you for Civility Wins, including myself. And, find your peace while taming the beast. I think it is awesome. I believe that we all need to fortify ourselves with this book. Do we have a date yet for our launch?
So we're still finalizing a couple of tweaks to this proof copy that we've been combing through. So it's coming very soon. It's literally the last, we have a print copy right now. So this is the final stage. So we're pretty sure that we'll be posting the information very soon, and people will be able to do pre-sale. So everybody who registered on Eventbrite, the goal was to make sure we have your email. We can start sending that out. And we'll continue building on the email list to make sure that every single person has a way to get a copy of this book.
Yeah. And, we have so many things planned, even, getting you to the table to meet these two young ladies in person, get a signed autograph, first edition. And we look forward to having seminars and just wonderful retreats, all based around Civility Wins. So don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, our Instagram, contact us
LinkedIn.
on LinkedIn, and we'll just, get you onto our mailing list and keep you going from there. I want to give each of you 2 minutes to bring home what we're bringing to the table. And I'll start with you, Sandy.
So I'm so thankful for each and every one of you for tuning in today. Thank you so much to you, Bianca, for taking the time out of your day and for supporting this project. Thank you to my partner in crime, Kristen. Well, this is not a crime. This is the labor of love. But thank you so much to each and every person that has offered us some congratulations, who have sent us messages, and they're excited to receive. I've gotten some DMs of folks that are like, hey, where's the link? We need to get this. So we're really trying to work on that anticipation and getting everybody together with this idea of Civility Wins, find your peace while taming the beast. Please be sure that you've RSVP'd to the link. We're going to leave the link open probably for a couple of days just to make sure that everybody can get in here. And also just wanting people to know that, sometimes your voice matters more than you think. And one of the reasons that Kristen and I decided to do this was we were firm in the idea that it just takes one person to say something different, one person to bring some positivity to the table. We can complain and gripe about all of these issues that happen to us, but we have to be willing to step forward at some point. And the legal agitators that Kristen and I are, we didn't have a choice but to put this together. So final note, Civility Wins, find your peace while taming the beast.
Kristen?
Yes. Thank you, Bianca, for being here, for your support. We love you. Thank you, Sandy. I'm just so thankful because life has a way of really, I couldn't have gotten through life and a lot of the things that we experienced without Sandy. And I'm not going to cry, but this was a labor of love from 2017. Said I'm not going to cry. Okay. And the experiences that you go through, for me, I always look at it, how is this going to teach me to be a better person, to be a better human being? And anything I can do to give back to someone else, maybe what I've experienced, they may not have to experience. And I think that is also the reason why Sandy and I wanted to share what we've learned with other professionals. Thank you to Braulio. Thank you to Hilary. Thank you to Lorna and Tammy for coming on as our special guests. Your time, your support is so appreciated. Thank you to those who were with us from day one, our friends and our family that sat down with us and, kind of read some of the things that we talked about in our book and gave us some pointers. Marlon, my husband, Vernita Harrison, Loris Gale, Jennifer Roberts, Sandy, you can mention.
Tasha Karobo. Thanks to my mom for making me the legal agitator that I am. My brother, my stepdad, my nephew for tolerating the many hours that we were toiling at this. Thank you for each and every person. My partner, Jermise G, at the time, she was going through the trenches with us at the time. Congratulations to Jermise on her new path. So many things have come into play, and we're just so grateful. There have been a lot of folks that have stepped in to help us, and really coming in today, Bianca is the reason that this program is going the way it is today. So we thank you, Bianca. We appreciate you so much.
I love you guys. I love what you do. I love what you stand for. And as you said, it only takes one person to hear you, to see you, to feel you, to love you, and to know you. And my trust's in you, and I can't wait for the book to come out. So let's rock and roll. And without further ado, I want to thank everyone on this feed, everyone that will be replaying and rewatching us. Send us a message. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you want to pre-order that book from us. We are excited because civility wins.
Thank you so much. All right, guys. I hope you have a good one. Until next time.
Until next time, take care, everyone, and may God guide you. Blessings.
Amen.